multi-exclusive dimensional being called with another exclusive. Today's video is going to be about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because Mercury just went in Virgo, so of course that's dealing with negative communication. That's overall in general. It's basically dealing with that concept in general, as far as how we think, how we communicate, how we analyze the details, how we do things in the practical natures and shit, and basically pretty much put ourselves in a circumstance situation. But I want to do this video about it because it's very common to see what's going on, especially what's going on in this world too. Because I want people to understand and understand, especially with this fake ass virus too. And that's another thing. Because what's going on, what this virus is going to basically do is give a whole lot of people PTSD, post traumatic stress disorders, or put them in a process circumstance, even the kids too, which is the youngest kids. For me, the fact that they got to go through this whole process just for them to basically try to evaluate and basically depopulate and get rid of a whole lot of people, especially the people that's not aware and shit. You feel me? Some people may be their first time having a human experience, so some of them gotta learn. Some of them gotta go through the process. But you always keep your spirit and your soul. Your flesh gotta stay here. That's the structure. Feel me? Your spirit create these things. You are the creator, and of course, everything that's outside of you is your creations. So that's what people need to understand and understand. So when people get into the whole concept, I don't want to die, yada yada yada. I don't want to do this. I mean, at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, close these eyes and shut these closed, what happens is you go in your inner world. Feel me? Which means your soul is basically detaching from the body. The spirit is controlling this shit though. Spirit is controlling the soul is controlling the body. And your spirit sits in the highest seat, which means you are the creator. And of course, that's death already. When you're dreaming, when you're in another realm, that's death already. Because to be with God, you got to be absent from the body. You got to be absent from the flesh. Feel me? You don't bring this shit with you. It stays with you. Feel me? This is like your bitch. This is what you create. This is what you push out. Feel me? So that's first and foremost what people, places, and things that's so entitled with the whole thing with the death thing. Death is not bad. They made it a bad thing. They put that on y'all. It's like a spell. It's like a ritual. Feel me? Because to do something over and repeatedly over again is to mean you want to keep coming back here and suffering. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know thyself at this time and these times we in, if you don't know thyself, you're gonna put yourself in the freeze. You're gonna put yourself in the containment. You're gonna lock yourself and seal yourself up. You're not gonna be able to move around. You ain't gonna be able to come through new experiences. You think this is the only world or globe in the world? It's really not. You gotta get out there. You gotta experience more. For me, that's the whole purpose of having clairvoyance. That's which is very important because PTSD affects a whole lot of people too, especially the water signs, especially Virgos, Geminis. For me, because it put them in. Being nervous is different from being scared or being worried and shit. These are like differences because you can be nervous about something, but that don't mean you scared about it. You can just basically be unsure about something. For me, that don't mean you scared. For me, it's a difference. For me, you gotta learn how to separate the two because everybody come up with this whole process of basically the circumstance situation that we're dealing with, whether it be a person, place, a thing, or something that you brought with you from your past life that you brought here into reality. And of course, that can also play with your Lilith moon. That's why it's very important to know about astrology, because once you know about astrology, you know more about the stars, because the stars never lie, but people always lie. Feel me? So that's the whole purpose of knowing ourselves. So once you tap into this frequency vibration orb, you will know exactly what's going on. You'll be aware of what's going on, and you'll be accustomed to what you need to do as far as get yourself out of that circumstance situation. Because doctors would tell you, oh, this PTSD circumstance situation is a disorder, but it's really not a disorder. Some people just have access to certain things that they're not ready or accustomed to. And certain people just go through circumstances and situations and they pick this up, or they just basically receive this especially due to the traumas and issues that they've been through, as far as what they go through. You feel me? Because it could be a gift and it could be a curse too. So it's very important to know how to balance these things out. This way, it won't overtake you, and it won't be a load on your spirit. Because remember, what you don't take care of now is basically what you're gonna have to take care of more in the next life. So you're just adding more weight and going having things into density. Also, you could take this into consideration when you got religious folks too. They be so caught up into this whole Jesus Christ figure, or basically somebody that they worship, feel me? Or somebody come around cooking some real shit. They're already on their mind. It's basically, oh, this person is a demon, yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, worship means worship. It means you're going to war for something. So if you don't know that, then you just put yourself in a circumstance situation, basically trying to defend something that you have no clue of what you're defending. So basically, when you put yourself in that space, in that orb, in that vibe, that's how it play out into that spectrum. And of course, this can basically trap you because you're taking the bullet for something that wasn't aimed at you. So when you're doing that phrase, then things kind of like get out of line, and basically they get all haywired and stuff like that and stuff. How you doing and stuff. And then when it plays out into that circumstance situation, these things get out of line and out of pocket, and it's something that you basically can't take a pause. So basically, that's how it will play out. So it's very important to make sure you put yourself in the right frequency, vibration, energy, in the space and orb that you don't want to basically pay attention to. Because what you're paying attention to is what you're gonna receive. Feel me? You're gonna get what you're paying attention to. So you better be paying attention to the right things that you want to basically put in your life, put in your circle. This way, things won't basically like put you in a circumstance situation or to basically trap you. Feel me? Because remember, sin is basically the S for the snake, which is basically your shape, your form. And when you go in something, boom. Once you go in something, you picking up all the circumstances, situations, all the ghosts, all the people, places, and things that took that shape and form and basically play out these structures and played out these representations. Because remember, you had spirits and bodies that was here before you. So at the end of the day, PTSD ain't necessary to you. That's just something you're experiencing. That's something that caught on to you and trapped itself into you. Just look at it like this. When something outside of you, once it's outside of you and it take a shape and form, and basically once it mix and mingles your waters, what happens is you start to experience that shit. Take this into consideration. Say if you were blood, and you know for a fact you were blood, but you go into a Crip neighborhood. Now what happened? A Crip gonna see you wearing red, so of course they gonna be like, okay, it's static. Why is this person over here? Now take that into consideration, where something that you don't see outside of you comes inside of you and basically initiate and create that aura. Especially like when somebody pass gas or some shit. Boom, the whole room smell it. That's basically a gas. That's like a shape. That's basically no shape, but that's like a gas or odorless. And that's like basically something that's being pushed out. So of course people gonna see this shit. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, who blew it up? Who blew it up? Of course, that's a negative vibe. So now take this into consideration when you see like when you experience something that you ain't want to experience. Now other people, places, and things gonna be seeing that, especially when you start to put yourself in a circumstance situation, when you start to get scared, start panicking and worrying and shit, you see all kind of shit. Like what you basically pushing out is what you're gonna manifest. And the heartbeat is very important. If you don't know how to control this, you can a whole lot of shit can get very chaotic, and you can start seeing all kind of like dragons, see all kind of demons or whatever. But basically, that's what somebody else is experiencing. For me, PTSD is something like private, something what somebody's going through as far as what they fighting, what they battling, they demons or circumstances, situations that they came up to. And these things can trigger us into nightmares and physical reactions and shit. And of course, it can haunt you to the point where if that's always on your mind and you're not pretty much detaching from that, it can create a circumstance. Because remember, your mind is what you think about is what you create from your mind. So what you're pushing out is what you're gonna get back. Feel me? It's like you do your whole life. You just basically been out here, been terrorizing shit. Of course, it's gonna come back and find you, especially if you ain't creating these circumstances, situations to protect yourself. Feel me? And these are the reactions that everybody see. Feel me? This is deep. So it's very important to make sure You don't put yourself in that stage because depression is basically being in hell. You're deeply pressed. You're pressed down. So basically, when you're going down, you're not going up. You're gonna basically be trapped down there. You're not gonna be able to get out of that circumstance situation. It's gonna fuck with you. It's gonna be mind-boggling. It's gonna try to unfold you and shit. So it's very important. Being that we about to come into Virgo season, for me, I want to put y'all on to rituals and spells that'll basically help you, especially if you're water sign of anybody in general that's having nervous systems and shit, or basically just scared, or pretty much act out on these natures as far as PTSD. Because I don't really like to utilize that word because you know how fucking these logical ass scientists or whoever you want to call these motherfuckers, they like to throw words on shit. Feel me? They like to throw words on shit. So you feel me? I don't like to use too much words. So basically, when we dealing with PTSD, the only way to cure this shit is by you curing this shit. Feel me? It's by you basically going inside yourself to basically break the curse. And when you do that, you could get through any circumstance, situation, or any obstacles by that means. So when we're dealing with this, what's important is you need to basically control any substances or any circumstance situations that put you in that vibe. You need to cut them off. Get rid of these motherfuckers. Feel me? Get them out your life. They don't serve you no purpose. And also, a doctor can't help you with this because a doctor will suggest you medications, but you gotta understand. If they don't know a cure, if they never came up with a cure, what you think this medication gonna do? It's gonna create another problem, circumstance, situation that you don't need. You're trying to get rid of problems. So basically, something by them giving you a pill, it's not gonna stop something. It's not gonna control it. Feel me? That's something with you. That's something you gotta do dealing with spiritual work, or as far as whatever you do as far as smoking weed, or a Newport, or any circumstance situation. Feel me? Because that's why it's not good to judge no person, place, or thing, because you don't know what the fuck they been through. Feel me? If a cigarette helps you, then you basically program a cigarette. A lot of motherfuckers would basically take a cigarette to be out here looking cool. A lot of motherfuckers would just smoke weed just because it look cool. But if this is helping you, is this is what's getting you out of that circumstance situation, then it's gonna basically put you in that space and location, which is gonna benefit you as long as you programming. The art of programming is very important too. You feel me? Because if you ain't programming something, like for instance, if I'm sitting in this chair was always throwing with negative energy, negative orbs, then basically it's gonna basically push that out. This shit might break. This chair might break type shit, but I ain't gonna put that into existence. But of course, like also meditation, which is very important. Meditation is very important because if you ain't meditating, you ain't clearing out your space. You ain't having no clarity. You ain't having no clairvoyance. And if you ain't having clairvoyance, then what's gonna happen is you're gonna be carrying old baggages with you. And when you carrying old baggage with you, you're not gonna be able to basically replenish or get that shit out of you for a new day. Now all you're gonna do is keep carrying that weight on you. And when you keep carrying that weight, parasites, worms, tapeworms, all that shit, they start to basically take shape and form and expand, and they want to basically create this problem, create this circumstance situation to the point other people be looking at you like, yo, this motherfucker, I don't like how he look. His energy always down. So yeah, you want to get yourself out of that circumstance situation. Now listen, for all the zodiac signs, if you want to get rid of this shit, you gotta follow your moon sign, your element, which is your moon element, not your sun element, not your rising element, it's your moon element. So we're gonna start off with the fire signs, from Aries to Leo and to Sagittarius. If you got a moon sign fire, what you need to do is go in the tub, play some. What you need to do is go into the tub or go by the water, by the ocean somewhere. Feel me? Because you got to cool down that fire with the water. So when you do this, that's basically uh attraction, subtraction. So now if you're a water sign, this is dealing with Cancer, also Scorpio, also Pisces. Be by the fire. So the way the water can basically be put out with the fire, it can basically control the fire. This way the water, because it's gonna be a hard time moving. This is basically your moon element. And when we're dealing with air, Aquarius, Pisces, and Gemini, you need to focus on the breath. Go outside somewhere, open up the window for me, put on the AC, just breathe in for me with the breath. That's what you need to be focused on. Take deep breaths. And last but not least, the earth element signs, which you're dealing with the guilt, which is Capricorn, Virgo, of course, and of course Taurus. What you need to do, if your moon element is earth, you need to basically be stable. Sit Buddha style, get some crystals, get some gemstones, be rock and waters. And that's how you would get it out of you. Real shit.